Welcome to datascience.show, the podcast where data science meets executive leadership. We talk with top AI and analytics thought leaders about turning data into real business impact. If you're a C-level leader or data expert shaping the future, you're in the right place.
I'm your host, Mirko Peters. We explore how data science and AI drive real business impact, straight from the leaders making it happen. Today, we're tackling observability as strategic control, how leaders turn data and model monitoring from noisy ops work into a control plane that reduces risk, improves ROI, and accelerates enterprise AI adoption.
Observability often gets framed as an engineering problem. More dashboards, more metrics, more alerts. But when monitoring lives only in ops, it fails to influence the one place that matters most, executive decisions. Today's episode reframes observability as an executive instrument that connects telemetry to business outcomes, compliance, and strategic choices. By the end, you'll have a practical playbook for shifting observability from noise into a predictable control surface for your business.
I want to introduce a composite guest for today's executive playbook, a senior leader who runs observability and model monitoring at a large enterprise, the person accountable for turning monitoring signals into board-level insights. They're responsible for telemetry across data pipelines, feature stores, real-time models, and downstream business metrics. In short, they sit at the intersection of engineering, product, risk, and compliance. I'll draw real-world examples from that remit to keep this tactical and actionable. Why now? Because observability remains foundational for trust and governance as organizations scale AI. Short-term trends don't change the fact that when models and data pipelines fail, business value and reputations are at stake. If you want AI to scale beyond prototypes, observability must be treated as a strategic control, not a late-stage checkbox.
Let's start with background and perspective. How a leader lands in this role, and what their remit looks like. Imagine someone who began as a data engineer, moved into platform reliability, and then took responsibility for model quality and compliance. Over time, they learned observability isn't just logs and traces. It's the language you use to make decisions. It requires translating telemetry into business questions, like, are customers getting the right recommendations? Is the fraud model degrading in a way that increases financial exposure? These are the metrics that matter to execs.
Their scope typically covers 3 layers: infrastructure health, model and data health, and business outcome signals. Infrastructure covers latency, errors, and capacity. Model and data health covers drift, feature integrity, and label quality. Business outcomes track conversion rates, revenue per user, false positives cost, or regulatory KPIs. The hard part is mapping low-level signals to those outcomes, so monitoring surfaces actually drive decisions. Now to the core playbook: strategy into execution. First principle: define a small set of business-aligned SLOs. If you only remember one recommendation, make it this: SLOs, not raw metrics. An SLO might be model-driven revenue must not drop more than 5% month over month, or false positive rate for underwriting must remain under 0.5%. SLOs give observers a target state tied to business value, not an endless river of telemetry. Second, map telemetry to decisions. For each SLO, list the decisions that depend on it. Alert an engineer, pause model retraining, enact a manual review queue, or escalate to risk. Each signal should have a clear action and an owner. If telemetry doesn't lead to a decision, it's noise, and noise creates alert fatigue and wasted cost. Third, prioritize signal sets. Not every metric needs the same fidelity. For high-risk SLOs, think fraud, credit, or safety. Invest in high-fidelity, low-latency monitoring, full lineage, and audit logs. For lower-risk features, aggregated daily checks are fine. Prioritization controls cost and reduces cognitive load for responders. Fourth, balance tooling and process. Tooling can automate detection, but tooling without clear RACI and playbooks is a recipe for alert storm. Pair any observability tool with response playbooks, ship it with training, and run tabletop exercises quarterly. Make sure executives see summarized SLO trends in their dashboards with the ability to drill down into root causes for accountability.
Let me give you concrete failure cases so this isn't abstract. Case 1. A recommendation model slowly drifted after a pricing change. The ops team had feature drift alerts, but thresholds were tuned to noisy variance. By the time SLOs showed revenue impact, rollback was expensive and slow. The lesson: tune alerts for business impact, not for every statistical blip. Case 2. A model produced biased outcomes after a downstream data schema change. There were no lineage links between the schema and model features, so debugging took days. The fix was twofold: enforce lineage and add precondition checks in the data contract.
Another trade-off worth calling out: breadth versus depth. You can instrument everything at low cost, or a few critical paths at high fidelity. Many organizations start broad and shallow and never move to depth. My recommendation: identify the top 3 SLOs that materially affect revenue, risk, or customer trust, and invest heavily there first. Then iterate outward.
Now, the leadership and impact layer: governance, ownership, and measurable ROI. Observability needs a governance model that assigns clear ownership for each SLO. Ideally, a product owner who is accountable for both the signal and the downstream decision. Create a RACI for alerts: who owns triage, who owns mitigation, and who owns executive escalation.
Executive reporting should surface trends, not raw alerts. Boards and C-suite leaders want to see SLO health, incidents that crossed thresholds, root causes, remediation actions, and the business impact measured in revenue, cost, or risk reduction. This is how you justify observability spend and show measurable ROI. Tie observability improvements to fewer incidents, faster time to detection, and avoided losses.
Cultural shifts matter too. Encourage a blameless post-mortem practice and make observable failures a source of organizational learning. Regularly retire signals that no longer provide value. Reward teams not for the number of alerts closed, but for time to detection and for reducing the recurrence of similar incidents. Looking ahead, observability will need to evolve as models become more autonomous and data ecosystems fragment. Expect 3 durable trends. 1. Lineage and provenance will be non-negotiable. Leaders will demand audit-ready trails that connect data changes to model behavior. 2. Observability will move up the stack into business and product surfaces, so decisions can be taken closer to impacted stakeholders. 3. Synthetic monitoring and scenario-based tests will grow in importance to exercise models under corner cases. For the next 12 to 24 months, executives should prepare by funding 3 activities: define and socialize the top SLOs, implement end-to-end lineage for critical flows, and run tabletop exercises that tie monitoring signals to executive actions. These investments are relatively small compared to the cost of a widely visible model failure.
Before we close, here are 2 actionable moves you can make this week. 1. Convene a short executive SLO workshop. Pick 3 SLOs, map the decisions they drive, and assign owners. 2. Run a single tabletop incident that starts from a model drift alert and plays through detection, mitigation, and board reporting. If you do nothing else, implement those 2 items.
Final reflection: observability is not an ops checkbox. It is a strategic control plane, the mechanism by which telemetry becomes leverageable insight for executives. Done well, observability increases trust, reduces risk, and makes AI investments predictable. And that is the difference between models and value. If you found this episode valuable, subscribe and share it with your network. And let's connect on LinkedIn. I'm Mirko Peters. We'll be back with more conversations on how data science and AI create real business impact. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to datascience.show. If you found value in this episode, subscribe, share it with your network, and join us next time as we explore how data science drives smarter decisions and better business outcomes.